Nah, my futon, hold it up and smoke it. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for. It's madness, yo. All the things that we could talk about.
Call it.
But let's talk about these urban circumstances real quick.
And basically, it's
we got this.
So,
Revolution.
Winner's frosty hand. Muhammad is the fame's name, forever stand.
Standing on royal fusing of justice for the few, ridiculed by the pale terrorists, bent on genocidal obsession, rooted in fear of neglection and abandonment, fueled by nightmares of ancestors' jealousy.
because at the end of the day, I still want to be able to I don't dislike George Washington.
The kind of friends I think all friends should be like my friends. My friends are the kind of friends I think everyone needs. My friends see the things at times I don't see. My friends hate the police.
What has changed?
Are deemed the criminals, and the blacks are deemed the criminals.
Shut up and help.
Reflection ain't nothing but the inner child trying to see you. You gonna look? You gonna pick up that book?
Lord, keep me far from the faith. Guide me through night and day. Teach me your ways. Show me the righteous way to sway. Lord, can you teach me, please? Show me the way, I'd say.
Grand Risings, and welcome back to another season of The Urban Conservative with Chaz Neal. We're excited to have you join us on this journey of thoughtful discourse and community engagement. Urban Conservative is proudly sponsored by the Leon Block Network, an organization committed to promoting transparency, truth, and accountability in our media landscape. Here at Urban Conservative, our mission remains steadfast: to bring you the latest news directly from the streets, addressing critical topics such as gun violence, crime, politics, and perhaps most importantly, exploring solutions to the profound challenges our communities face. As we embark on this third season, the focus is clear. It's time to actively contribute to the transformation of our communities for the better. How can we achieve this? The answer lies in a multifaceted approach that starts with reconnecting with our family, with our core family values. Strengthening our sense of community is paramount, fostering bonds that transcend the barriers that often divide us. Moreover, it involves embracing our foundational roots, recognizing the historical and cultural threads that weave through the fabric of our society. In this season, we're calling for more than words. We seek action. It's a plea to move beyond mere rhetoric and engage in tangible, impactful initiatives that contribute to positive change. The time for empty words has passed. Now more than ever, we need to put our convictions into action. Together, united by a common purpose, we can make a substantial and lasting difference in the well-being of our communities. So join us on this journey as we explore not only the challenges, but also the opportunities for growth and progress. Together, let's turn our shared vision for stronger, safer, and more connected communities into a reality. Thank you for being a part of the Urban Conservative with Chaz Neal, a platform dedicated to fostering change and making a positive impact on the world around us. Shut up and help. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Today, I want to continue of what we talked about yesterday. But before we really get into North Minneapolis, I wanted to talk about Brooklyn Center. And I wanted to talk about Daunte Wright. Last night in Brooklyn Center, they had a city council meeting. Daunte Wright was murdered by Kim Potter, April of 2021. And Katie Wright has been fighting along with Amy, our Amity, to get change in Brooklyn Center. And it saddens me because what we've seen last night is that elections have consequences. And that's what I'm going to talk about this morning a little bit, is about Brooklyn Center and about that, this fight for change. What does it really look like? What does it mean? So I want to play this real quick. And so you can hear it right out of me, that's because of it's just the ad. So as soon as the ad ends, I will definitely play the video. And here we go. I think. And everybody got to get their paper. I do this for free, so. All right, hold on. All right, let's.
Are some sorry people, and more people are going to do the right thing.
Outrage in Brooklyn Center tonight after the
years ago with the death of Dante Wright. A Brooklyn Center police officer shot Wright during a traffic stop back in 2021. WCCO's David Schuman is here with the impact tonight's decision is having on members of the community. Hi there, David.
Hi, Amelia. There was so much raw emotion tonight, sadness and anger and frankly shock from many people in Brooklyn Center who now have to start over after dedicating themselves for a long time to fighting for these police reforms.
Motion fails.
Katie Wright abruptly left the room in tears, but she came back to speak directly to the Brooklyn Center City Council.
You guys are some sorry people, and more people are going to die because you guys didn't do the right thing. I have been fighting for 3 years. My son has been dead for 2 years and 9 months, and you guys say no to a policy that's going to protect people.
The City Council Monday voted against a police department policy change that would have no longer allowed cops to pull people over for low-level violations. Wright's son, Dante, was pulled over for expired tabs in 2021 when former officer Kim Potter mistook her gun for her taser and shot and killed him. Katie Wright had a say in shaping the new proposed policy. Still, she told us before the meeting she felt anxious.
You just want to make sure that no other parent has to go through the pain that you've went through. And if these policies were in place when my son was killed, he would still be alive today. I truly believe that.
One of the 3 council members who voted no told us she'd looked at the research, listened to her constituents, and stood by her vote. Brooklyn Center's mayor supported the changes.
The recommendations we see before us today are the result of hours of research, many courageous conversations with community, staff, council, and a willingness to step into uncomfortable spaces and dialogue with people that we may not have in the past.
In the end, she held Katie Wright as she cried. The move to no longer pull over drivers for low-impact offenses has been adopted in Minneapolis and St. Paul. St. Paul leaders have said violent crime hasn't gone up and racial disparities in traffic stops have gone down.
All right. Thank you, David. Kim Potter, the officer who killed Dante Wright, was sentenced to 2 years for manslaughter. Potter finished her sentence last month while on supervised release. WCCO will keep you updated.
So I wanted to talk about this for a second because I want to talk about Dan Jerzak. I want to talk about Christian Lawrence Anderson, and as well, I want to talk about I forget it. I don't know how to say her name. Tanisha. So what you're seeing on the screen is, I don't know how to exactly call it, but a flyer of Chris Lawrence Anderson, Tanisha Cragness, and Dan Jerzak. These are the 3 people that voted down legislation that would help people that look like Tanisha. And I knew that, elections have consequences. And this is something that I spotlighted during this, because it only took them a year to get done what they needed to get done. And that's what really trips me out, is it only took them a year. to get done what they needed to get done. And, you know, Dan Jerzak being a Brooklyn Center police officer, as well, he is a Brooklyn Center resident. I knew this was coming, you know, and that's why I wanted to be able to do the things that I knew that would be able to help. Now, see, what a lot of people don't know is during 2022, there was a group of Brooklyn Center residents that were pushing an amendment that Minneapolis had that passed, and it was strong mayor. I was a person that was behind that that city charter change for strong mayor in Brooklyn Center, where it would have given either who April Graves is who won, but it would have given either Mayor Elliott or April Graves power, and it would have given them legislative power as well, and that would have been able to pass last night. That would have been able to pass a long time ago, and that is part of the problem. Is that, again, elections have consequences, and if we're not watching what is going on around us, things happen, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really crazy that we are still in 2024 fighting injustices, fighting good versus evil. And the crazy thing is these people that, and there's one thing that I wanted to take from this, is that April Graves, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you voted last night to do the right thing, but you haven't always done the right thing. And that's what really trips me out, because as being a mayor, you have a lot of power. And the fact that you know that that was a conflict of interest, for the simple fact that you have a city council member, Dan Jerzak, voting for something that affects his 9-to-5 job, which is his full-time job, right? Because he's also he's an employee of the city. So it's his interest when he votes. See, and that's why I feel like he shouldn't have voted last night. He should have recused himself from voting. He should have absent, but for the simple fact of, is your interest city or is your interest the people? And that's why I feel like people really need to pinpoint that in Brooklyn Center is, did Dan Jerzak vote as a Brooklyn Center police officer, or did he vote as a resident? And did he listen to his constituents? Because I don't know why people didn't bring that up. And that's what really trips me out, is you have all these so-called educated people, because I've always brought that up. When it came to Jerzak, that is something that I always brought up, for the simple fact of that anything that came to do with the police department, he should not be a part of, for the simple fact that he is a city employee. Because here's the thing of it is, and one thing that I learned about politics is, when things that you vote could potentially affect you, you should recuse yourself, because I've seen a lot of Red Wing council members do that because they didn't want any ethics involved, or where they could rep benefits or rewards. And how is they not rep benefits? Because the police department didn't want these changes. I can tell you that right now. The Brooklyn Center Police Department didn't want these changes, for the simple fact of that when Kim Potter got out of prison off parole on 12/23/2023, she already had a job by the same union that paid for her attorney, the same union that reps, that sponsors, that speaks for the Brooklyn Center Police Department, has hired her to train other officers. So how is that not a problem? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much legislation we pass, because Minneapolis and St. Paul, you still have people dying, and it doesn't even matter about the legislation. I want people to realize that, because if we're not getting bad police officers off the streets and we're only recycling them, right? That's not helping. That's not helping. It's not helping at all. And I really want people to literally today to keep the right family in your prayers, because what happened last night should not have happened, and it shouldn't happen at the end of the day, because when you let politics and city entities be involved in what goes on, it's never going to turn out right. It's never going to turn out right, because here's the thing of it is, what did city staff say? I'm going to go back. I don't know if they still videotape, if they record the meetings. I have to go back and look at Brooklyn Center. But that's one thing that I will look at to see what city staff recommended. Did they recommend it past that? Or did they just leave it up to the council members? That's one thing that I want to know. Right. So Robert says that petty misdemeanors are not a crime. Per Minnesota statute, reasonable suspicion of a crime is needed for a stop. That's very true. And that's one thing of us not knowing our rights, is that police can lie and get over on us. Also, he says that most non-moving violations are not safety hazards unless they can state as much and are petty misdemeanors. So people really need to, because at the end of the day, this is about saving lives. This is about police out here really protecting and serving. And if we're not there, if there's loopholes for them to be able to get around, that's a problem. And we really need to be able to shut those loopholes down, because what's coming up February 12th is our legislative session is coming back. And I don't see people talking about that. And to me, that is a problem. That is a problem that we as Black people, we as Black Americans aren't discussing what's going on in our communities. That's not even something that we're worried about. And that's sad. That really is sad as hell, because we need each other, and we need each other bad do we need each other. And I don't know how to get there. The only way that I do believe that we can get there is by education, is by holding each other accountable and calling out the wrongs. So I'm going to play this. We're going to get into what we talked about yesterday and continuing in North Minneapolis about the gangs and the drugs and all this stuff. So let's get into it.
'8th, 2021. Police in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tensions had reached a boiling point, and it appeared that the city was on the brink of yet another gang war. Just hours earlier, a man named Prince Martin, aka Prince Hinton, had been gunned down outside a gas station, his own hangout for gangsters. Prince himself was not just a local father of four, but also a charismatic, high-ranking member of a gang called Taliban, or YNT, that was well known to police. No one had been arrested for killing him, but everyone knew who YNT's crosstown rivals were. Minneapolis gang detectives, like Sergeant Andrew Schroeder, had plenty of reason to be scared. For the past 15 years, a bloody, seemingly endless rivalry had taken the lives of many around the Twin Cities, from gang members who were deeply involved in the conflict to innocent children who were simply in the way of a stray bullet. While some of the rival gang violence could be chalked up to disputes over control of money blocks and drug turf, much more of it was simple vengeance. Just murder begetting murder, as people who had recently lost loved ones decided to lash out. In this part of town, an absurdly high percentage of deadly violence could be attributed to groupings of allied gangs that were respectively known as the Highs and Lows. These collectives claimed turf on opposite sides of the very same street where Prince Martin had been gunned down on August 7, 2021. The fears of impending violence the following day turned out to be justified. On the night of August 8th, yet another innocent life would be lost as part of a particularly bloody month in Minneapolis, which included shootings, car crashes, stabbings, betrayal, prison sentences against young men, and finally, a call for peace from Prince Martin's mother, who spoke out in public just 4 days after losing her son, urging those behind the violence to, quote, put the guns down. It was an act of bravery, for as we'll see through this story, mothers are often the overlooked victims of gang violence, and they often suffer the most. But the violence is just the tip of the iceberg. In today's episode, we'll explore not just the rivalry behind these tragic incidents, but also the gang takeover of the Minneapolis fentanyl trade, the nationwide drug ring that helped supply it, and all of the deaths and prosecutions that have since followed. Minneapolis is a city of 400,000 people spread across 59 square miles. But for our story today, so many significant, life-changing events happened right here, at the intersection of West Broadway Avenue and Lyndale Avenue North. The West Broadway corridor, as it's known, represents a territorial divide. Every day, on this 3-block radius, thousands of dollars in drug money exchanges hands. Some have even lost their lives right here, where others have stood hours later, plotting retaliation. The Highs and Lows rivalry dates back 15 years or so. Many theories have been floated to explain how it all started, including the 2009 killing of a Taliban member named Kyle K. Top Parker. But there were a few significant homicides that helped cement the conflict in place and ensure that peace would be hard to ever come by. The Highs stay in an area north of West Broadway Avenue, while the Lows occupy the southerly regions, as highlighted by a Highs rapper known as Gregory Brown, aka Knowledge. Having such an easy-to-map territorial marker has made it easy for both gang members to find rivals, but also for them to mistake civilians for rival gang members based on their activity in a particular neighborhood. The Highs are comprised of the aforementioned Young and Thuggin gang, also known as the Taliban, as well as the Free Shots, the Black Mob, the Irv Boys, the Trey Trey Crips, and K-Block, just to name a few. The Lows are made up of the 19-block Dipset, the Stick Up Boys, Scarface, and also the Skit Squad, a gang that formed in September 2011 after a Scarface member named Jawan Skits Osborne was shot and killed on DuPont Avenue North, just 6 weeks after he allegedly shot and wounded a YNT member named Josiah Taylor, aka Joker, which coincidentally occurred 10 years to the day before Prince Martin was killed. The formation of the Skit Squad marked a particularly violent period in Minneapolis history. After Joker survived the shooting, and a Highs member presumably killed Osborne in retaliation, the Skit Squad responded with a series of shootings that led to months of retaliatory violence between them and YNT. It all culminated in an incident on the morning of June 26, 2012, when a pair of alleged Skit Squad associates fired into a home on Bryan Avenue North, where YNT members were known to reside, but instead ended up hitting Nizel George, a 5-year-old boy who was sleeping on a couch in his home when he was killed. When police made arrests, the suspects turned out to be juveniles themselves, who ultimately pled to decades in prison. As for Joker Taylor, not only did his gang membership persist, the following year he was accused of shooting a witness against his brother, Samuel Josephat Taylor, in a case involving the killing of a Minneapolis cab driver. Another significant spree of shootings came in May of 2016, when a man named Roy Dolo Davis was gunned down during a gathering of low-end members in a shooting that left 7 others wounded. Weeks later, a high-end member named Derek Little D. Rogers was chased down the Olson Highway and fatally shot, allegedly by Lowe's members seeking revenge for Dolo. At the scene of Roger's death, a Highs member known as Tez Blood stood above his close friend's body when another member who was incarcerated happened to call him. Quote, "Somebody gonna go to sleep tonight, bro," Tez allegedly told his friend. "Somebody gonna feel how I feel." What followed was a string of violence, including the killing of a 2-year-old, Levante King Jones, during a drive-by shooting, and the fatal shooting of 36-year-old Crystal Collins, who was allegedly used as a human shield by the gang member who the attacker had been aiming at. During police investigations, Tez Blood's name came up as being somehow involved, but the connection was so tenuous that prosecutors never charged him. These murders, and others, were almost surely on the minds of police investigators after the evening of August 7th, 2021, when Prince Martin was shot and killed while standing outside Winners Gas at the corner of West Broadway and Lindale Avenue North. It was a location well known to gang members and police as the, quote, murder stop. And as the name implies, there had been shootings there before, like when the Highs Black Mob member William Ravon Johnson, aka Lil Will, survived being shot there a year earlier. But if you're wondering about what in the same places outside where they could be easily spotted by rivals or police, the answer is actually quite simple. As the famous saying goes,
there's a lot of money in that white powder.
Selling on Shopify, long delivery.
In recent years, we've seen prescription painkillers and anti-anxiety medication that have fully taken over as the drugs of choice across America, from codeine cough syrup to opiate pills to Xanax. But the most infamous among them is the synthetic drug fentanyl, which is responsible for countless overdoses among not just those who intentionally use it, but also others who believed they were ingesting something else. Counterfeit oxycodone and Xanax are more common in some drug circles than the real thing, and the results speak for themselves. In major metropolitan areas, coast to coast, it is common for the fatal overdose rate to not just exceed, but completely dwarf the rate of homicides. Minnesota has been no exception. The state saw a whopping 1,356 fatal drug overdoses in 2021, most of which occurred in the Minneapolis area. For context, the homicide rate in Minnesota was 182 in 2022, though once again, a majority of these deaths occurred in the city that was once known as Murderapolis. It should come as no surprise, then, to learn that gangs have adapted to meet the demand of this fentanyl phenomenon. A review of arrest reports from along the West Broadway corridor show that the drug dealers typically own two things during the relevant time period in our story: fentanyl, and ironically, cannabis, which is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of danger. While marijuana flowers literally grow on trees and are easy to produce, the had to tap into a national drug ring to keep the fentanyl coming in. Unaware that drug agents were monitoring them, several Highs members were making regular round trips from Minnesota to Phoenix, Arizona, to meet with a supplier, who would in turn mail packages of counterfeit blue M30 pills containing fentanyl to a business in Minneapolis, where a Highs member could access them. Typically, these packages weighed more than 3 kilos and would get divided up among members who hung out at places like Winners Gas, Merwin Liquors, and several other businesses along a 3-block stretch of West Broadway Avenue. For example, a Highs member named Marin Bailey, aka Booney, was arrested with 257 pills and $3,600 in cash after he and 2 other gang members ran through a Boost Mobile at 523 West Broadway, locked the door behind them, and ran out of the back in a failed attempt to escape police capture. In another incident, Damone Rhodes of the Highs was arrested with $21,000 in cash and 1,000 fentanyl pills. The open nature of this fentanyl market was so severe that in 2022, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison publicly announced that he would investigate whether Merwin Liquors and Winter Gas were, quote, maintaining or permitting an unlawful public nuisance on their properties. All of this contributed to what occurred on August 8th, 2021. On that evening, A group of mourners gathered outside Winter's gas station to pay tribute to Prince Martin's memory. Throughout the evening, a few members in the crowd would break away, go commit a shooting, then return and join the gathering as if nothing had happened. Finally, at around 7:30 p.m., 2 different cars of High's members headed out. 33-year-old Lil Will Johnson, the man who'd been shot at the same location a year earlier, as well as 27-year-old Gregory Lil Lord Hamilton, and 30-year-old Dontrell Trelmo Johnson, allegedly loaded into a Dodge Charger and ended up at a store called the Skyline Market, where they clearly expected to bump into a Lowe's member. Instead, they spotted Darrell Ramon Wells Jr., a 25-year-old man who found himself at the shop for no other reason than he simply had a hankering for soda that night. He was not a gang member, but the group apparently thought he was. Lil Lord and Trelmo opened fire at Darrell, who was struck by gunfire, yet somehow found the ability to frantically sprint down the street towards an alleyway, where he collapsed. It was at this precise moment that High's member, Keon Ken Pruitt, pulled up in a stolen Porsche, allegedly with Christopher Johnson, and Edward Lil Dre Washington, who got out of the vehicle and opened fire at Darrell, just to make sure he was dead. Years later, in a court of law, Darrell's mother, Christe Wells, would have this to say: DJ was killed for absolutely no reason. My child was taken away for nothing. He was everything to me and his dad. He was my pride and joy.
It's like the Garden of Eden. It's a real place.
After the shooting, the 2 cars made their way back down to Winter's Gas, the impromptu funeral of their friend. But their servants' store would prove to be their undoing. Police compared mourners' clothing to those who'd been present for the murder, starting with the identification of Christopher Johnson, who promptly confessed, but also named Ken and Lil Dre as his accomplices. Johnson ultimately signed a cooperation agreement to testify against the remaining suspects, who were all brought up on murder charges. The result was a series of indictments aimed not just at the Highs, but 3 main gangs thought to be responsible for a bulk of the gun violence in Minneapolis. The U.S. Attorney's Office filed 1 case against a subset of the Bloods, another that charged Lowe's members with possessing guns, and a huge indictment that targeted High's members for multiple murders, extended periods of fentanyl sales, and general involvement in criminal activity under the RICO statute. The indictments were bad news for some, and worse news for others. And to the public, they contained a trove of information that hadn't before been made public. For instance, police revealed that 1 week before Prince Martin's death, they had broken up a memorial for a murdered Lowe's member and arrested alleged gang members there on suspicion of possessing guns. The High's indictment also revealed the name of Tez Blood, the mysterious gangster that local newspapers had opted to keep anonymous years earlier. Gregory Brown, the High's rapper known as Lil G and Knowledge, was in the indictment too, though his charges were limited to alleged fentanyl sales. Others weren't so lucky. High's member Christopher Finch, aka Twin, was charged with a June 7, 2021 robbery attempt where an accomplice named Samantha Javay Taylor was shot and killed by the robbery victim. Javon Jojo Knight was charged with attempting to rob a group of teens on April 12, 2021, resulting in a 15-year-old accomplice named Jaden Mitchell Blackman being fatally shot, and 35-year-old Ahmed Mohammed Badal being killed by High's member Jalen Salter after they crashed their car into Badal's car during the getaway. 5 months later, on September 9, 2021, Jalen Salter was shot and killed at a local barbershop. That same day, the indictment alleges that High's member Tyrese Giles posted a memorial tribute to Salter on Facebook, then traveled to Penwood Market in Minneapolis and killed a Lowe's member, identified as Darian Barry. 5 days after that, Joker Knight, who'd proved his loyalty to the gang by shooting an eyewitness at just 17 years old, allegedly shot and killed a Lowe's member. Finally, on January 7, 2022, a group of High's members committed the ultimate act of disrespect when they allegedly destroyed a memorial to Lowe's member Emmanuel Jones, then shot at a vehicle of passing Lowe's members. Darrell Wells Jr.'s alleged killers were included in the indictment as well, even though they were already charged with the murder in state court. But most of Darrell Wells' killers have already taken plea deals in state court, like Ken Pruitt did on February 16, 2023. On that day, he walked into the Hennepin County Courthouse with his family and Darrell's family watching from the audience, admitted to driving the stolen Porsche up to give his two accomplices a clear shot at Darrell, then heard heartbreaking statements from Darrell's family. Finally, Ken rose to make his own statement, publicly speaking about the case for the first time. First, he apologized. Then he had this to say. "I don't mean to cry like throwing a pity party or something. That's just my mom because she's been trying to help me be a better person, and that's just my actions that got me into this. My mom always tried to keep me in the regular, and that's just me not listening. I never listened to her."
Wow. So, as you can see, there is a long history of bloodshed. But what I also want to talk about, though, is, that area, Broadway and Lindale, has been like that for a very long time. And it's sad that, our community leaders don't call it out. They say that they want to prevent things. They want to make our communities better. But if they wanted to make our communities better, why are you reinforcing and enabling our community members to do negative things? And I think about that a lot, because I thought this was to be about making our communities better, not hurting our communities more, because it just saddens me, and I'm going to continually saying that it saddens me, because we lose people every day. We lose people every day. We lose people, and yet we're still out here talking about accountability and talking about what accountability looks like, but we don't ever see accountability. We don't ever see justice. We're always talking about transparency. We're always talking about truth, but it always seems like we're just peeling back an onion. And it just, because I'll tell you right now that, watching a lot of videos, body cams, but the part that hurts me the most is seeing these mothers cry. Because I'll tell you right now that, watching Katie cry on WCCO, and the connection that I made with that family, and just seeing that the things that they're continually going through, and they shouldn't be having to go through, because all these promises have been made, all of these, and that goes for all of this. This goes for the violence. This goes for this everything. The drugs. They always say they want to get rid of it, but why is it every time that they focus on something, it only gets worse? Why is that? The war on drugs, when they said, because if that's a war, damn, we losing bad. We're losing bad, because we're constantly losing people out here. Overdoses. You got people fighting over property that ain't theirs, that we ain't ever owned. We're just leasers. And until we understand that, until we become stakeholders and continually wanting to be seen as leasers, they're never going to take us serious. They're never going to take leasers serious, because we don't have no foundation. If you don't have a foundation, who's going to believe in that? Because I'll tell you right now, the internet is really about to be on fire for the next couple months. And it started yesterday when they did that March for Life at the state capitol. Watch what I say, because Walter already been in a nutshell. He trips me out. But all of these people do, man. And they all do, because at the end of the day, are we really going to see any change? Because they talk about, what's crazy is everybody wants to pinpoint our problems right now, right? They want to pinpoint the migrants, and I'm not going to I just say that out of respect to call them migrants, because I guess that's the woke term to call them. But they're not migrants, because when you look up the term migrants, and words do matter, when you look up the term migrants, it means to be migrating in either a neighboring state or within that same state, right? That continent. That's not what they're doing. These people are from everywhere. You can't call migrating over an ocean and going state to state. You can't. That's crazy as hell. How can you call that migrating? But because the Democrats say that that's what they are, migrants. Are they asylum seekers? Damn, we're asylum seekers in our own country, and y'all ain't trying to help us. We're trying to get away from violence. We're trying to get away from the human trafficking, the drugs, the violence. Y'all ain't trying to do nothing here. So why are we trying to help other asylum seekers, and we're not even trying to help American asylum seekers? People need to wake up, because that's what's crazy is there's a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people right now that live in bigger cities that are sounding the alarms, and people ain't even paying attention. Not even paying attention. Because we're literally I'm not going to say because I don't want to get into the fear-mongering words. But I will say this, we're having an invasion right now. An invasion. And the crazy thing of it is they're only going to migrate, because we'll call it that, to certain states because of the benefits that the services and the resources they'll be able to receive because of the Office of New Americans. Because not every state has that. And what's crazy is that people, I can't wait till this movie comes out, because there was a clip. Actually, let me see if I can find it, because I want people to look at this, and you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Oh, he got a point. Because I'm gonna make this make sense to y'all, right? So, all right, because y'all gonna be like, man, damn, what is this dude doing? He's trying to scare a motherfucker. No, I'm just trying to keep it real with you. All right. So let me. Y'all are gonna be like, what the hell? I'm gonna play it back.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The future presidency will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
I guess aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America.
We just try to stay out with what on the news seems like us.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens? We're moving to D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instant. They didn't be
Survived war song. I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? We're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American?
I
You don't
want
know?
people to really think about that. What type of America are you?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car! Move, move, move!
We're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God. It will be with liberty and justice for all.
Go, 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 go!
God bless America.
Tell me that's not crazy. Tell me that's not crazy. Y'all tell me I'm not crazy. So that is a movie that is coming out, should be out soon. It's called Civil War. I don't know if people seen Leave the World Behind, but that is just another component to the madness that we're facing. So if you've seen in that movie, it was talking about how, now I want people to just think about this for a minute, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, hold up. Let me show y'all this. So I can show y'all, because this is crazy. I want y'all to think about that map that you just seen on there about the 19 states, because look at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's all both Michigan. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I think there's 19 they say on there, and I might be missing one. But there's literally 19 states on here. So how would that not, states that are literally have office for new Americans, how would that not be those states right there coming together and being a part of a new America, right? Because what kind of American are you? Think about that. I want people to think about that. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I'm just trying to put the things that are out here and want y'all to see it for what it is. Because at the end of the day, these people are putting out messages for a reason. And there's things that are happening in legislation. There's things that are happening in our communities that we don't even understand. Because at the end of the day, we don't care. But we allow this to happen. And that's why I say elections have consequences. And if anybody disagrees with what I'm saying, please show me differently. Because these are all sanctuary states, cities, and places that are literally writing legislation to make it easier for migrants. So I want you to know what this is, because this is the Office of New American State Network. This is, and I know it's crazy because this is what Mark Carter and Isaiah Washington and all the little Trump people are talking about right now. I'm not talking about this in a political aspect. What I'm talking about is the fact that you literally have states that care more about helping others than helping the ones inside of their state already, right? Because I want people to see this, because together with the World Education Services, if people don't know what WES is, please look it up. Go Google it. Google can be your best friend. The council supports and co-convenes an emerging nationwide Office of New Americans State Network. Through this network, the council and WES provide a forum for state policy leaders to drive positive change that supports immigrant and refugee integration into the workforce and economy. So that's why you have driver's license for all. That's why you have where they're making it so much easier to be able to do things, jobs. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, they're replacing us. But it kind of does look like that. And it kind of does feel like that when they're making it easier for people that haven't gone through the fights that our ancestors have gone through to get where they're at today, to get where we're at today, to have the things that we have today, and to see people come over and just have the shit handed to them while we're sitting here and have seen our family members die, all because of simple things of the color of their skin, or because of they might like men, they might be gay, they might be a lesbian, they might be trans. We're losing family members over that. So, we've literally lost family members because they might like it, like the white woman, right? They might. Emmett Till, man, we don't even know if Emmett really liked that woman or not. Just thought maybe she was pretty, because of the simple fact of that he had no rights to protect him for freedom of speech, even though the First Amendment was back then, because of the color of his skin. Or I can even talk about my great uncle Willie Francis. Actually, yeah, my great uncle Willie Francis. Simple. Come on, man. The railroaded for a murder. There was no way he could have committed, but all because he was undereducated, all because of the simple fact his parents were undereducated, and that we literally had no rights in place to protect Black people. He was executed, not once, but twice. So I want people to remember that, man. Like literally. And how long have they been talking about a civil war? Because the Supreme Court just showed you yesterday that they don't give two fucks about us. Because the law, they say that the law protects what's going on. And I still will never understand that. I never will understand that of when will America start protecting America? When will Americans start protecting Americans? That's what I want to know. And like I said, continuing on this week, Robert will be on here tomorrow. We will be discussing Minnesota history when it comes to the mafia, when it comes to the mob. And I think people are going to be kind of blown away a little bit, because it still kind of does shock me at, the information that I read. But then being from, somebody that, was running the streets as a teenager in Minneapolis and gang banging, and seeing the things that I've seen and knowing the things that I know, it baffles me, because these people are supposed to be, I thought, cared about us. They didn't want to see, because when I literally think about it, these are supposed to be people that we look up to, that we idolize. And at the end of the day, they don't even care about us. These are people that we go vote for. We listen to their words. And at the end of the day, they don't care. Do you think they care? No, because I see people right now, elected officials, going harder for resolutions for ceasefires than even thinking about the homelessness that is going on in our community, in our nation, the fentanyl crisis that we're facing. That's what, because what's today, Tuesday? Thursday in Minnesota, they're holding a public hearing, whatever committee, whatever they want to call it, for assisted suicide in Minnesota. How about we prevent all these goddamn murders first? Or let's actually start solving some of these murders. Let's get rid of the cold cases before we just start helping people kill themselves. Because we have a lot of loved ones out here that don't know what happened to their loved ones, like Vanessa Jensen, who just went to a street show, car show. And because some idiots wanted to shoot, she's no longer here, and her family has no answers. Has no answers. We just saw Nazelle George. No answers. It's sad. It's truly sad that we as people don't really care. Our politicians don't care, because if it ain't about money, they don't care. They only care what it works for them, what works for the system, what works for their political agenda, their establishment. I want people to think about that, because elections have consequences. They have consequences. And we're seeing that in real time. In real time, we're seeing that in real time. And it saddens me that my people will not wake the fuck up, because we're continually going to have to see mothers like Katie Wright continually crying. I'm going to have to continually see the stories of the kids being shot, and some survive. Not all of them die. There's stories like LaDavion, who's in a wheelchair but continually has to go to the hospital and face medical issues. And yet his shooter walks free in our community, all while this little boy suffers. Or we have Anaya Allen, right? That killer's still walking free, right? Terrell Mays. You still got these people's killers walking free among us. Among us. Baby killers. Baby killers, but they worried about a ceasefire resolution. How about we get these baby killers off the streets, right? Can we do that? Can we get these no-good thugs who shoot slugs at children off the streets? Can we do that? How are we ever going to get bad police officers off the street? We can't even get bad community members off our street, bad neighbors off our streets. Make it make sense to me. Because we want everybody else to do the right thing, but we don't want to do the right thing. We only want to do the right thing when it fits us, when it works for us. And I'm not just talking about Black people. I'm talking about just people, period, in that comment, in that statement. Before I get off here, I wanted to read you guys something that I wrote. You know, if people don't know, I do poetry, spoken word. And, you know, just going through everything that been going on, I wanted to write something of how I was feeling. And I'm not the best at putting my words out there. So I write in a journal. I take a lot of, you know, I write down a lot of thoughts. So I wrote this poem called Streets Speak Louder. Currency over notoriety, adhering to the rules. Loyalty holds no price. Mine is not for sale. My words soar like a bird in flight, a testament of my truth. This lyrical expression bridges generations, unveiling harsh realities. In the era of crack genesis, I navigated perilous terrains. Journeys to distant realms where few find their way back. Shortcomings met with applause, the sympathy, this of a loaded firearm, bang, bang. I ascend the society ladder, shared meals with upper echelon, preferring the company of those shunned by society over those who bind. Are there individuals on this earthly plane as distinguished as ourselves? And I wrote that because I feel like when you tell the truth and you want to live by the truth, you know, and you realizing that this fight is good versus evil, right versus wrong, you see the world differently. You know, you see people differently. You see people for actually what they really are. And I've grown accustomed to, you know, loving people, but I see that loyalty matters more, because anybody can say that they love you. But is there loyalty with that love? Or is that love for sale? Does that love come with a cost, right? Because loyalty is priceless. And loyalty is you do it out of love. You do it because you want to see that person succeed. You're loyal to that person because of the simple fact of it's not about love. It's about the fact that you see that person, they see you, and y'all just want to do great things. And that's what I'm not seeing out here. I don't see people being like that. I don't see people being genuine, because I see a lot of people saying, I love you, but also stabbing people in the back. That's not love. That's not loyalty either. That's being selfish. And I see a lot of that. So until we can come up out of that, where we're not having all these backstabbers, and we can have people that can come out here and tell their truth, live in their truth, and be okay with that truth. Because we all have a story. We all have a story, and everybody's story needs to be told. Everybody's story needs to be heard. Because how are we supposed to succeed in life if we're silencing everybody? But we're uplifting the ones that are doing wrong. We're uplifting the ones that are doing it fraudulently. But we silence the ones that want to do it by the word of God, or they want to do it by the word of good, or they want to do it because it's the right thing to do. We'll silence them. We'll belittle them. We'll demean them. We'll cancel them. All for telling the truth. But we'll uplift and embrace and love the fake. I want people to think about that. So, thank you for being here with me today. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation, and I hope people learned. Again, fuck BCPD. I'll see you guys at trial in March, because I'm not taking no deal, because I'm coming. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming for Brooklyn Center. It's always been like that, and I knew in my heart that I still know in my heart, and I believe in my heart that the truth will always prevail. And we're going to get to the truth, and the truth will come out, and we will see that these so-called people that say they're for us really ain't for us. We will see that. And I'm going to shine a bright-ass light magnifying glass on that shit. It's time to start lighting fires, and I don't mean that literally of putting gas and with the lighter. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting the heat on these people, holding them accountable for their lives, holding them accountable for their bullshit, right? Because that's what we vote for them, right? So it's time to start holding people accountable, right? That's the word. That's what we're doing this year. It's holding people accountable. So with that being said, you guys have a great Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time. I think 9 o'clock works still for Robert. So, but we'll be on here tomorrow to continually talk about Minnesota, to talk about the CIA, to talk about drugs, to talk about these dirty politicians, to talk about this broken system. So with that being said, and I said that again, win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. Have a great one.
Every day, fighting for my life. Every day, fighting for my life. Fighting for my life. Fighting for my bread. Grew from the seed you thought was rock. I think not. Fire bred desire to rise above denial, to rise from former ashes to face new trial or triumph. I am enough. Trial to triumph.